Okay, we'll continue on. Heather.
So that essentially, we just wanted to celebrate and share that piece. And I also, just a little update on the downtown parking lot. We're really excited at our next meeting. We'd like to present some thoughts. We kind of did a 5-year scope to understand all of the programming and further public art opportunities, which we're looking forward to present to you. From there, we were able to kind of get more of a defined idea of different opportunities in the parking lot to put forth for placemaking and wayfinding. We're presenting that to our commission this morning, and that's to you at the next meeting.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. All right, any other questions or comments regarding the arts? Okay. Moving on to, there's no further old business, new business. For the final item on this morning's agenda, we'll review and discuss the city's fiscal year 2025 budget request, which was provided with the packet. And Jeremy's here. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
Is Eric gonna?
He was supposed to, and he knew about it. I just team speaking to him and I don't see him
Okay, no
anywhere.
worries. I think we can get through it.
Hopefully he's all right. So we had talked about. So, the big one is the parking lot. So there is a engineer under contract, working on the design. That design should be, done in about another two weeks, 2.5 weeks or so. That should put us, well positioned to put that out to bid for a couple, probably week and a half or so, 2 weeks, immediately after. And then that, will allow us to, choose a contractor, hopefully get some good bids and start work. The challenge is this is going to really, straddle the fiscal year. It's not a huge challenge, but just something to take, count of. So I think it's unlikely we'll have a whole lot of construction expenditure this fiscal year. We'll have some of the engineering, maybe a little bit of pre-purchase of things like bolts and other hard elements we can pre-order. But the point of that is that in your budgeting, if you can budget accordingly to carry for the bulk of that expenditure to happen in, the next fiscal year. And it's going to be tight because you all know that only, put asphalt down when it's warm. So it's going to be a real race to get this done, but Eric's pretty confident that it should be fine. Finer details, the engineer's looking at he's done some work with automated parking. He's looking at things from everything from angle to parallel, perpendicular, 90 degree. Parking to look at how many spots we might lose, but what are the efficiencies of that? We're looking at, again, preloading the parking lot for a automated toll type feature.
And when you say preloading, that's like running the power to.
Yeah. Because the design's actually happening right now. I can't tell you what the equipment is or how that works. And obviously there's going to need to be a month or two of thought on the pricing and how does that work. So we're not there yet, just looking at cost. If it's, $800,000 to put in a parking sensor thing, we might have to pivot and look at something different. Hopefully it's relatively affordable. But all those elements, as well as, those center swales, how much work do we do on those? That's all being performed right now. So,
And whether or not they're saving asphalt or not.
Yeah. I mean, my preference, and again, it'll come down to the dollars, and we'll bring this to you, is to make it look like a new parking lot. I would almost prefer that over, other amenities and bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But the grading, the stormwater, stormwater will come into play right now. That parking lot sheds quite a bit of stormwater. You're probably all aware that by 2030, we're going to have to start treating stormwater outflow because we'll exceed 10,000 people, and that's a federal requirement. So just looking at elements such as that, then again, tying in arts and historic, so we can apply those funds to, both split rail fence, maybe, wayfinding, public art. So it's rolling, and I guess for your budgetary purposes, I threw out, 250 for the subsequent, fiscal year.
That's in addition to the 215.
I think 250 should get us there with, some expenditures this fiscal year, so, I don't have that
So the
document.
total project is this 250.
I believe, I mean, that's probably fair to
So
look
we'd
at.
only have to add 35,000 to the line item,
Because we've been carrying.
because we've got 215 carrying.
Yeah,
So we can spend some of that and roll it over.
yep,
Yep, and then you need an additional 35.
I think so. I mean, just to be safe, we don't have to spend it, obviously.
Right, yeah.
But just so we're not put in a position
Okay.
where we can't pull it off. And I recognize that, funding this means less funding future for potentially phase 3, but, it's just a balancing act right now. And is the,
Well, if you think of the 35 in the next few months, we're gonna almost gain half of that back in interest.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
on the downtown,
and I haven't looked at,
maybe more.
yeah. I did the map in the last 72 hours, but was Army surplus in? Uh,
So, yeah. That's a tragedy.
yeah,
So for that, and then we all have a copy of this for our budget. But we have to adopt, I'm kind of moving into, further on the adoption of the budget. So next meeting in August, we have to adopt the budget. So I will round up a couple of you guys and do the budget. I could do preliminary work on it because there's not a lot to add to it, just moving things forward and changing, bringing years back. I'll get that.
I'm happy to help on that.
Okay, all right, Tom, and I'll work on that.
and Great Northern, of course, we'll be here in September on that first grant, and then, there's a subsequent grant. Follow. So, fingers crossed on all
Fingers
that.
crossed.
So if we don't get that grant, then we probably won't use the 1.3 million.
Well, there's the 2 grants, so if we don't get, either of them, then I think we sit down and have a new conversation about what's the best, bang for the buck for the remaining, collections and assets of syrup. I personally think it's probably stormwater. We have a lot of property owners on the west side of the airport that are, impacted by stormwater. And that some of that design's been going on as part of, the Great Northern Road project. But I would say still, I'd love to get that stormwater taken care of, especially for the Silver Wings, the Hare, Cox, and even south of there, that area. And then, we would need to look at a new focus. So I don't know if that's Baldy or, North Boyer, but, certainly a lot of opportunity.
Do you recall the amount of the 2 grant applications we submitted?
The second one has not gone in yet. The first one, the total project was 29 million. We applied for 23 plus in grant funding, which is a once in a lifetime for a town this size grant opportunity. And it would, of course, result, if approved and accepted, in the closure of Mountain View, that crossing. I would, point out, if you talk to the public, state statute does allow the railroads and ITD to close crossings, at their discretion, with no grant funding. So I do recognize the impact, that this would have on some homeowners in our community, but, I look at the greater good. Do for.
And the leverage is really with the railroads and ITD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second grant is new, isn't it?
No, they're both aligned for rail related corridor improvements. So the timing of them is they're not concurrent. They fast follow one another.
But they're in either or.
Yes, we wouldn't get both. I mean, we wouldn't apply for both.
We would apply for both.
But you won't get both.
Right, we won't get funding from both. If we don't get the funding from the first, what I've been told is we'll fully apply for the funding from the second. It would be similar.
Okay.
And they're both contingent upon closing that view.
And realigning it.
Yeah, they actually affect, one of the reasons we think we'll be successful is they affect 4 different crossings. So there are 4 crossings in that 1.5 corridor. So, that's pretty good bang for the buck, so to speak. So, it would realign Woodland, take that grade off a little bit. I think change the alignment a little bit to straighten it up. Obviously, Goopy, Mountain View, and then Baldy as well. So, I mean, affects the flow there. So, yeah, that would be pretty significant to get that grant for sure. We are proceeding with some way acquisition right now. The city's portion, that whole project doesn't fall in your revenue allocation area. So some of the matching, some of the improvements are being paid for out of our utilities. So we are proceeding with some land acquisition right now. A small piece near Dare, potentially some of the Cox property.
Do you recall the percentage in our footprint?
It's like 60/40.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, perfect. Thanks for the updates.
And then First Ave, it's appropriate.
Yep.
We will be selecting that design engineer in the coming probably 2 months and get going on Bridge South. Once we select the engineer, we'll try to incorporate. I've heard some interest in incorporating elements, components from the downtown waterfront competition. They have something called phase 1 in that document that has an alignment on First and Bridge, and it's pretty attractive. So we'll have that design company look at that, and we'll see how far south we can go. We might be able to pair it with some other grants, some highway money out there to ideally get all the way down to Superior. Look at the opportunity for a roundabout. It's a new development going on, new purchase behind the White House, or the White House and the adjacent vacant property. A roundabout would take a little bit of space, so demolishing that building or moving it, it's probably unlikely. So to work within the confines of what we have for space there going to go.
And for the downtown district, and obviously we don't have the same amount of funds there that we do in the northern district, but one of the other, I think, priorities should be, what are we doing with the old Arlo's building? What are we gonna do with the Powder Hound building?
Yeah.
And that Powder Hound building, we do have, after the city swapped some of the properties, some of that property does lie within the Sura ability
Footprint,
to footprint. Any thought about using some of the Sura money to incentivize something that's sort of positive for the community in that development, and maybe accelerating it to not be an empty lot?
Yeah, so we both property owners I've met with. I'll start at Arlo's. Jason and I had lunch with Mr. Dicker. He suggested that'd be open to donating a portion of it for public access there. Of course, the downtown waterfront concept does envision an extended boardwalk going all the way up. So that's out there. He basically wanted to kind of wait and see. He said, let's see what the plans are, what the vision is, what's going to get funded in the next few years. So he wasn't really hot and heavy on doing anything there. We know there's some, it is private property right now. So we know there's some challenges. It's kind of a liability, I would guess. The sidewalk appears to be being undermined a little bit. And there's some slumping. I'm not sure if the city wants to take on a liability. There's trees falling into the water there. There's some shoreline problems there.
Mhm.
So that one there's not a whole lot going on. Except for the wonderful historic plaques that every time I walk by, those are awesome.
Jeremy, he's decided to do nothing on that piece of property.
He
Started
did not allude to any immediate action. He made some vague references about. Correct me if I'm wrong, what I took was there was a lot, that the city was trying to do, scale and volume. Thought he said that he thought it was maybe too much. Did he say something like that?
I got the impression that if the city were to initiate a project on that property, he'd be open to donating a portion of it. His interest there is a small cafe style
Mhm.
business that takes up only a portion of a lot. So that's what I took away. He also, of course, owns the lot just around the corner, the Shake-a-Paw lot, which has a for rent sign on it right now. Sure, if that's for
Yeah, for lease. I saw someone out there yesterday spraying water and stuff. I don't know what's going on.
so maybe that'll be deactivated. And for that lot, he said the biggest obstacle is parking. He I think envisions putting a hotel of some sort there, but the parking challenges downtown are his biggest obstacle. But for the lot on First Avenue, I feel like the ball's kind of in our court. If we were to approach him with a proposal to activate that space as some sort of public-private partnership with access to the creek, of course, any sort of park that we put in there is a major project, a major construction project because of the conditions of that site, the amount of engineering and construction it would take. So.
And that would be a tougher one for sure to fund. We would have to change our borders for the Arlo spot.
Right.
Yes.
When I look at
You're
it,
right,
that's how it
yeah.
looks.
Yep.
No, our revenue allocation area is behind that location,
Mhm.
out in the creek, but not.
Yeah, right in front, right behind.
It does look like to previous comment, the Army surplus is in our.
It is.
It is, look at that. So who knows? Perfect. Go on.
Can we back up real quick on the parking lot? You are still planning on that for this year, right?
Yes, well,
Before
it's,
winter?
it's in engineering and, yeah, I told Eric, if I don't see asphalt going down by the end of paving season, I will be very disappointed.
That's getting close to end of October.
Yeah.
So you imagine how that thing tore up and can't pave.
Big muddy mess. And then getting to Mr. Davis's building, Person Bridge, we have visited with him twice. He's open to activating the space. We talked high level about steps coming down from First, big, broad, 20, 30 foot wide landing coming down, hardscaping the bottom and activating it as a place where you could have venues, music, wine tastings, shade, whatever. He suggested that he would be willing to invest fair amount into making that space active. He didn't seem very interested at all with the, clarity of, interest rates and the housing market to invest in a big project right now. We do hold a couple $100,000 in surety to rebuild the sidewalk there. We just got engineering plans and estimates about 2 weeks ago in for that work. So right now we're just looking to see what the best design to basically bring the sidewalk all the way back to that sheet metal, or actually move that sheet metal and go back. That sheet metal is actually in on the city.
And he paid for that, or?
He rents that.
Yes, he's still big for that.
Okay.
It was,
Wow.
it was something like $5,000 a month to
Yeah.
rent sheet metal.
50 grand a year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. To that business, but the big thing I'm thinking about is how do we build a sidewalk, not knowing what the future
Right.
building's gonna be, and making sure that we don't have to redo it, or
Right.
it's not gonna be a barrier to someone going vertical.
And same with the steps going down and that landing.
Yeah.
You don't want to put the money in and then they tear it
I
out.
think that would probably get torn out, but it's really unclear at this point what scale and what schedule he's gonna be working on. There's just casual conversation about approaching him and talking about trying to realign Bridge a little more to the north to make that line up with Church a little better. I don't see us getting a new bridge, looking at federal spending and, smorgasbord, funding that's, funded all this stuff. I don't see that continuing, but maybe it will. So we will at least kick around the idea of, maybe swapping land, the existing right of way for a hole in the ground, see if we can't align bridge a little better. And then finally, the bigger piece is all that land, Farmers Landing, the downtown waterfront competition and previous parks master plans did discuss, activating and some work behind the Canada in that area. That's not a number one priority right now, here at City Hall, but, it's on the radar, but I'll keep you abreast. We're pursuing a couple other opportunities right now for some of our impact fee dollars that, may, been sort of earmarked. So we're looking at another piece of land acquisition. Might be, higher. Yeah, that's what's going on down there. Obviously, the hotel's a big deal. It sounds like based on their schedule, it's gonna be, another 2025 before they demo it. So we probably won't see, occupancy until maybe 2027. The front portion there is in the RAA, the lawn area, so some portion of that hotel, presumably would give you a little bit of increment for a year or two, but, I don't know if it's worth looking at a new urban renewal district, to capture that hotel. If you're not aware, there were some changes in state law about 4 or 5 years ago that restrict how much of this new valuation the city can take. One of the apparent, end arounds to that is by forming an urban renewal district. Presume that's how the previous administration was thinking, on the downtown waterfront concept, but, looking at our shortfall for our streets and roads, I'm inclined just to try to capture as much of that revenue immediately to use citywide. We'll have some time to talk about.
They also talked about de-annexing and all that, so,
Possibly.
yeah. Which we weren't included on,
Oh, in the discussion.
zero. Just to let you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we know about, the downtown and hopefully that, that Superior to Bridge project will get rolling.
For the budget, does the city want to put something in for potentially working on that Arlo's building? I mean,
I think, we can open the budget. It's not as, complex as a city budget where you're potentially opening it up to people being, strategic and changing things. So I think if something like that does become ripe, we would,
just come back and amend it.
yep, open the budget. But for now, it's pretty much just going to be engineering and design work. Just Superior. I would be surprised if in the next 12 months, somebody came back and could have the Army surplus store. Seeing that's in the RA, there may be opportunities there. And then finally, I guess the other thing I'd like to put out is, the hair is proceeding with, can you pull up the map, Eric, Melissa? Just the city, any kind of city GIS map. And, zoom out just left through the hair. To yeah, it can be any map. Sure. Just kind of zoom into the hair. Okay, so this parcel to the west of the Hare, they're right now coming through a subdivision process to split that off. They're gonna be bringing their parking lot all onto the realigning this so their parking lot is actually on this lot. And as a result of that, they're gonna have and then 2, 3 lots, if I remember correctly. This one is the parcel that we're looking at for acquisition for the future right of way. But this one, in visiting with the Hare, they intend to put those up for sale on the market. One of the thoughts I had when they mentioned that was it is in the RAA. Sir could potentially buy those, drop in a cul-de-sac and utilities and prepare for shovel-ready industrial lots. That I just share that because it's I'm thinking that could be you've never really done a development project, but it might be interesting, and I think you could act faster than private sector. If you truly want to get more industrial lots on the market and maybe have some control over who those tenants are. So
Isn't the proposed realignment of Great Northern goes right through those 2 lots, correct?
it's just the western side.
Western side.
Yeah, it doesn't go right through.
Okay, just almost northern terminus of the realignment from Gooby, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's almost on the same alignment.
It comes like.
Yeah, just kind of cuts the corner. That's right. It's a very small little wedge that gets cut off.
Yeah.
And then Turbine Drive, which is the little road that connects to the parking lot, will become dedicated city street, which is currently a private drive.
So that's that just is one that we'll see what the future holds, but and then if you could just zoom out, I'll just touch on the story. One more. So zoom in right here, Melissa. I think you just click on it. So when Silver Wings put in, these are stormwater retention ponds. This went in, that was draining here. Ditch. No other cup. Down this ditch, and it actually goes in into some massive stormwater. It's here. So county FAA didn't like advance of water. Won't go into all the details. Allegedly, culvert was removed, a road was built. Water is no longer flowing from Silver Wings onto the airport. The airport likes that. Silver Wings doesn't because there's a lot of ponding water and there's functioning the right way. So trying to find out what can we do to address stormwater for all these parcels. One option is this easement here and sucking it down in a pipe. It's down here. But regardless, whatever happens here, you pull us this way once more a little bit. Yeah. So this property, if you're aware, is very wet as well. There's a pipe that goes across right here, and it's supposed to convey water west. It's actually at the wrong angle, and it's conveying water into the Cox's property. So this whole area is really besieged by stormwater, and again, either part of the Great Northern Project or independently, I hope we can figure out some way to fund some improvements there, because it's a barrier to any kind of development happening there right now.
So you think that's one of the reasons for any delay in lot sales, Silver Wings is?
Oh, 100%. Right now,
Okay.
we've met with them several times. We're trying to fix it right now. It's a private civil matter to some degree. Unfortunately, the city does not have a approved stormwater plan for that development. That development, I believe, was approved in 05, 06. We have some engineering schematics that show stormwater flowing towards the airport, but we don't have an approved stormwater plan, so. Silverwings doesn't appear to have one either, so. What the stormwater is supposed to do there, or how it legally can do it.
So who owns all that property? They must have some ownership in part of that problem because they want to hardscape that. More issues.
Correct, so the barrier right now is anytime you build a new. Structure, you're creating impervious surface and potentially. Increasing, stormwater flows, so. Because all those pads are compacted gravel, Brandon, our engineer, doesn't believe there's a whole lot of difference if you put a surface.
Oh, so technically it's already doing it.
So it's, we don't expect to see any changes, but we've met with, Mr. Molesky a couple of times and he definitely wants this solved. And so it's kind of their thing. They need to show the city that their stormwater flows, appropriately, and the county's not interested in having any of that stormwater come onto the airport unless they were to purchase, some kind of easement to do that. So.
And for Silverwings, and I'll just, my knowledge of that is mostly of what I've read in the paper, but I mean, historically, has Silverwings development been a good partner with the city and the county?
There was a very significant lawsuit, when it first, went forward, over 20+ million. I was told that those, the elements of that lawsuit were all thrown out as frivolous, but effectively, ending. So the county prevailed. The county originally lost, the first, to a higher level court. I'm not sure if it went to the Supreme Court or not, but the county then prevailed.
Wasn't there issues with the FAA also? Through the gate access and all that?
Yeah, the FAA, the original advertisement showed, a kid playing ball on the taxiway. And allegedly someone high up at the FAA was like, what the heck, playgrounds and kids playing in an airport, so. I'm talking to Mr. Shuck, residential is not illegal, it's just not encouraged, I guess, is sort of the FAA's position, from what I understand. So it's all square now.
The hangar homes.
But it was very contentious.
Yeah.
And I think, at least from my perspective, want to move forward and see new taxable valuation
Sure.
be invested in there. So I hope we can solve the stormwater problem there. That's everything, and I know, I guess there's also gonna be getting some new investment a little bit north of this as well, up on the Woodland and Great Northern. And obviously all the way up, there's a lot of new apartments about to come on. In fact, your whole northern district is about to go. You're probably gonna see a lot. All stage of getting occupancy permits, this is all in your application all the way north.
Yeah.
There's also a subdivision north of this that's being worked on here, it's this parcel. Then back south a little bit, there's something in the works here. Jason's had some preliminary meetings with and the planning team with the owner, so there's talk of a new lawyer there, new facility. I don't know.
Also not residential.
No, it's all
Oh,
industrial.
yeah, because it was residential.
That was it. We tried to rezone it, Mr. Moore. Lighthouse tried to rezone it, but Mr. Moore did buy it from Lighthouse. And supposedly there's a pretty big plan being put together. So,
Be nice, right?
yeah. Industrial certainly pay the bills.
Yeah.
In terms of the three-legged stool, industrial, commercial, and residential
Mhm.
taxes, so.
Mhm.
So you'll start to see some more activity in the northern district.
Perfect. Great updates. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for today's agenda? No further business on the agenda. The meeting is adjourned at 8:15 a.m. Thank
Thanks,
you, everyone. Enjoy the hot weather.